Just to start by adding our condemnation to the attack on the synagogue in Britain. Horrendous. Taoiseach, we should be very clear about what we saw last night. Last night was an act of piracy in international waters. The Israeli Special Forces unit, Shayatet 13, surrounded 40-something flotilla boats, sprayed a whole number of them with heavy water cannons, rammed a number of small boats, and then boarded them with armed soldiers. These were boats that were in international waters, boats that were carrying baby formula, carrying food, carrying medicine to a people that are being deliberately starved and have famine imposed on them by Israel. And these people have been kidnapped. They haven't been detained, they've been kidnapped in international waters and are being taken against their will to Ashdod, probably. That's the usual spot. I was in here last night and watching the live feeds like millions of people around the world, and I felt, here in these pictures, you have the best of humanity on display. Ordinary people. I had the pleasure of spending 2 weeks with hundreds of them in Tunis. Extraordinary people in many ways, but ordinary people in terms of the lives they lead. Nurses, civil servants, senator, poet. People who are driven to do what they can, to put their lives on the line to try and stop a genocide. The best of humanity, combined with then the worst of humanity as these Israeli soldiers board in order to stop aid getting through to a starving population. It reminded me, I have to say, it was very similar to the experience we had in 2011 on the flotilla I participated in. Chris Andrews and many others were part of that. And I tell you, it's a terrifying experience for Israeli soldiers to board your boat. They're clearly hyped up, they've got big guns, they're pointing them at you, and you're highly aware that they've been told that you are Hamas terrorists or whatever else they've been told about you. And you have to remember, this is David and Goliath stuff. Israel is armed by the world's richest countries, one of the richest, most armed military, support from the most powerful countries in the world to inflict this genocide, and ordinary people armed with nothing other than baby formula and food and medicine. And it says everything, of course, about the nature of this Israeli state, the nature of this genocide, the nature of this apartheid state, that they are, engage in military action to stop people bringing humanitarian aid. I want to say one thing to the participants in the flotilla. When we were in Tunis, for example, we spoke about two key parts of our mission. One was to break the siege and to open a people's humanitarian corridor to allow aid to flow. It's clear that that is not going to be achieved, and an obligation goes back onto states to bring aid and ensure the blockade is broken. But the other aim was to highlight the complicity of Western states, or the failure of Western states to act, and to bring pressure to bear on governments around the world. And I think that aim of the mission has been achieved. A new impetus has been given to the global movement of resistance. You saw last night huge protests breaking out spontaneously at midnight in a whole number of countries of people saying they've blocked the flotilla getting through, let's block everything. The Italian unions have called a general strike for tomorrow. And I think all of us need to now redouble our efforts to stop the support of genocide, stop the arming of genocide, stop the enabling of genocide. I think Saturday's national protest called by the IPSC, 12:30, at the Garden of Remembrance can be absolutely enormous now as people flood onto the streets. There's people outside the Dáil right now protesting, and I think, just like the Italian workers, we need to put on the agenda workers' action. I know Palestinian healthcare workers for Palestine has called a day of workers' action on the 16th of October. Just to focus in on some questions. You mentioned earlier about the ambassador engaging with the making clear our expectation that our citizens will be treated fully in line with international law. Just to clarify, I mean, you agree that already our citizens have not been treated in line with international law. And then the other thing I would say to you is, you cannot trust the Israeli state about anything. Obviously, we know that on a much bigger scale. But I tell you, our experience when we were brought to Ashdod, the Irish ambassador was there. All sorts of commitments were made to us. We said, well, you'll get everything back. You'll be back on a plane within 24 hours. Just get off the boat now. There'll be no strip searching, no mistreatment, etc. Once the ambassador was gone, all of that was gone. We were strip searched. We were then detained. Our books were taken away from us. We weren't given anything for a week. So I would say, and I know there's limits to what the Irish ambassador can do in Israel, but that all pressure needs to be added to ensure that these people are properly treated. And maybe I'll move on, because I think a lot of the details in terms of the flotilla and the treatment have been questioned. And actually, if the other flotilla participants were here, I think they'd want me to ask about the broader issues, because that's what they're engaged about. It's all eyes on Gaza, not just the flotilla. So just to pursue the question about the use of Irish airspace. I mean, you went on the Late Late Show and said you didn't think that Irish airspace was being used. I did a leader's question. I gave you a dossier to prove that. I got a letter after that from the Minister for Transport saying that examination is ongoing. We know that examination has been ongoing for more than a year now. I got a PQ back last week. I asked, when did it commence and when will it be completed? And the answer I got, my department has been engaged in an examination of this matter. This work is still ongoing at the present time. I mean, that's really a joke. Are you going to take seriously the issue of the overflights? It isn't a question of beefing up our military. It's a question of prosecuting the companies that have it. It's a minister can prosecute the companies. They have it on their waybills. They're admitting that they're doing this. It's clearly illegal. Why is the examination taking so long, and is the government going to act on it?
Tony.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm very happy to answer broader issues than the flotilla, but as you can be assured, the entire nighttime and daytime has been dedicated by trying to protect Irish citizens who are currently detained in the state of Israel and get them home as quickly as possible, and that's where my focus is today and has been right throughout the night. In relation to the airspace issue, I mean, the Minister for Transport has made the government's position clear. That remains the government position, and I will seek an urgent update from him in relation to that. There are complexities regarding these things, but they are issues of legitimate public concern in our country, and they're issues of concern to government. And if there's an ability to take action, we're very happy to take that action. Can I also just say, in relation to, and you and I don't agree on lots of things, but I think I do acknowledge that obviously you've joined flotillas and you have a lot of experience in relation to these things, and I welcome those insights that you've shared with me, and I want to assure you that I will support not only our ambassador and our team on the ground in Tel Aviv with any resources or assistance they need to keep the pressure on for the well-being of our citizens, but also I do think, considering there are now likely to be hundreds of citizens and indeed hundreds of citizens from the European Union detained, I think it is really important in the hours ahead that we work together to maximise that pressure in terms of the welfare of our citizens. And yes, I do agree they've been illegally detained.